My first question to each of you and all your businesses is this, is how much money do you currently spend on energy? And specifically, energy is electricity, heating, and transportation. And not just you, but also if you happen to have a business where you have tenants or employees, how much money do they spend, especially on transportation? And we'll talk about why that's important in just a moment. So first, everybody's unique. Everybody has your own energy profile. You're spending different amounts of money. And my question to you is add up your spending every month, every year on electricity and heating and cooling and on transportation and maintenance. And then know that you can take that number and save 10 to 30%. And there's a lot of ways of doing it. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And then some of my colleagues are going to tell you to dive in a little bit deeper on a couple of different opportunities. Tim? So first, you can do it if you have capital or you have access to capital, and you can take tax credits, or you can do it with no cash. If you have capital and can take the tax credits and take other incentives, 10 to 30% returns on investments are absolutely doable and achievable in all those three energy sectors. Second, if you don't have capital or you can't take tax credits for whatever reason, there are third-party financing mechanisms that can let you do that. Take advantage of the tax benefits, have those benefits passed along to you in the form of reduction in cost, and have at least 10% savings in any of those sectors. When you take a look at New York State, what you find is that altogether, all of us spend $61 billion a year on energy. That's $22 billion on electricity, $25 billion on transportation fuel, and $14 billion a year on heating our buildings. There's a law. So whether you want to do this now or not, it's a great time to do it, but the reality is over the next 10 to 20 years, we're all going to have to do it. The climate law that got passed in 2019 is putting in place mechanisms that's going to make us all get there whether we want to or not. And there's a lot of... So what you need to know is by 2030, you're going to have to reduce your greenhouse gases by 40% for your electricity, heating and cooling, and vehicle fuels, one way or another. If you start doing it today, you can save money, or there's actually ways you can make money on various different pieces that Doug's going to talk about, amongst other things, that has least impact on your business, maximizes incentives and gets you cash grants or tax credits, and gives you excellent value on products, on manufacturers, on installers. And again, you can do it with outstanding returns on your investment, or you can do it with no cash down and save money from day one.
So the process, it's relatively simple. I've laid it out here as simply as I possibly could. Customers interested in upgrading and installing energy efficiency equipment can review the information on our website, coned.com/multifamily. If it's a customer with a project who contacts a contractor, we can work with you to either partner customers with an existing participating contractor in the program, or we've been onboarding new participating contractors throughout the last year and a half. I think the multifamily program is at roughly 140 unique participating contractors that work in our program. That's between electric and gas. So there's opportunity there. The different paths to come through the program to receive incentives is we've got market rate customers. We've got income eligible customers. That's our kind of our rebranding of LMI, low to moderate income. We've got a NPS path, that's the non-pipe solutions. And then we've got our TDM program, which is also named our neighborhood program for those of you who are familiar or have worked within our Brooklyn, Queens area. The path for projects to submit for incentives is prescriptive. Those are the incentive levels that we have listed on our website. If you've got energy efficiency upgrades that you're making that we don't have set pricing listed there, we do pay on a performance basis on $1 per kWh or $1 per term, and you can take that via the custom track. Customer contractors contact Con Ed or Wildan. We can discuss next steps, whether it be onboarding and the application that's required. From there, we'll ask you to upload the project documentations, application, scope of work, spec sheets. We'll schedule a pre-inspection, program issues a commitment so you can begin your work, post-inspection, and then we remit the incentive. And the incentive can either go to the customer or to the participating contractor that's doing the work, as we maintain flexibility there.
These, units are higher end, and there is additional work for the contractor. So these incentives are designed to make up the difference for that. We'll also be doing quality assurance and measurement and verification on this equipment to ensure that it is meeting the needs of our customers. I work specifically on the ground source heat pump program. We last year, for the last 12 months, had an exclusive residential ground source heat pump program that was limited to a single installer and was kind of our first foray into heat pumps. We'll now be having a full-fledged ground source program across our entire service territory. What's, I think, most exciting for all of these measures is that it is accessible to all of our customers. That's residential, multifamily, and commercial. And it does include both retrofit and new construction. So hopefully that's exciting news for the community on this call, that these significant incentives can really make the choice to go to a clean heating alternative a much easier choice. Same thing for heat pump water heaters. This is both ground source and air source heat pump water heaters. These are even greater incentives than we had last year. The key thing to note here is to really work with your contractor partners. They're the ones who are going to be able to facilitate these incentives. We'll be having a qualified contractor network, and so we'll ask you to work with them, and they'll work through our existing programs, including the multifamily program with Wildan, to get these incentives out to customers. The benefit is that most of this will be point of purchase or a line item discount on the project, so the customer will never have to shell out and then wait for a rebate. So we think it's a very exciting program delivery. We're excited about a lot of these changes. The thing to note is this also guarantees some certainty for heat pumps. We will be working on this program for 6 years with the significant incentives. So it's new technologies. We've got a new incentive structure. It's all a new approach for Con Edison, and we're excited to be doing this to achieve the state and local clean energy goals and climate and carbon reduction. So we're excited to be a part of this. We're happy to continue to answer questions about these programs if you are interested in learning about how to do this. We do have more information at coned.com, and we're excited to the potential opening of construction and energy efficiency offerings in the very near future when it can be done so safely. Thank you.
So now we get into clean heating and cooling. What are the real benefits? It does provide cleaner, more efficient. So when I say cleaner, okay, there is no on-site combustion, which means there is no carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide for the outdoor air quality and climate change, reducing carbon emissions, and carbon monoxide, the indoor air quality, which and the particulate matter, which makes you sick. A lot of people upper respiratory issues. So it is cleaner. It is more efficient. 100%, 4 or 5 times more efficient than the most efficient gas boiler or furnace. Comfortable space. It is a comfortable heat, and also it does save money, particularly with these incentives. But in the long run, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's cost effective against gas right now, but a lot of things is going to happen there in the long. But this is the long game here. But in the long run, it is the most cost effective heating and cooling system that you can buy, because number one, it is a heating and cooling system. So now you're putting one system rather than putting 2 separate systems. So yes, it can reduce your capital costs. Certainly reduces maintenance costs. It is much cheaper to maintain. Does save buildings, no cooling towers and big boilers in the basement, so you can use your roof for hey, put solar panels on, or have it as space for recreation and leisure. I mentioned the indoor air quality. That's extremely important. And now the companies that are putting in different types of filtration devices. So as people now spend more time indoors, and I can tell you right now, I'm spending probably over 90% of my time indoors right now. The indoor air quality is certainly critical. Next slide, please. You can go to the next. Oh, it's not advanced. Okay, here we go. So now I'm going to get into the technology. So yeah, so heat pumps. So one technology is ground source heat pumps, and basically it's running pipes into the ground in this high density polyethylene pipe. So it's hard rubber pipes, and it really is it exchanges the heat from the ground, brings it into the building into a heat pump that with refrigerants brings it up to approximately 120, sometimes 140 degrees, and you can heat and cool your building. So in the winter, the ground, which once you get below 5 feet, it maintains a constant temperature of about 55 degrees. So in the winter, the ground is actually warmer than outside, so it takes that heat into the building with refrigerants, and it brings it up to a comfortable temperature. In the summertime, it actually acts in reverse. So it's a reverse valve, and it takes the heat out of the building and puts it into the ground. Now, to give you a comparison, an air conditioner works the same way, but it takes the heat out of the building and puts it out into the air. So when it gets to 95, 100 degrees, and climate change, winters are going to get colder, summers are going to get hotter. Once it gets up into those degrees, it's not as efficient. But the ground is still 55 degrees, and you're putting that heat into the ground, so it's extremely efficient. So a heat pump is the most efficient air conditioner on the planet right now. And both in heating and cooling mode, it is the most efficient. Next slide, please. Air source heat pumps, again, it's a heat pump, but now you're using the air as the source and sink, as they call it. Those on the lower, I guess, right-hand side, those are the condensers outside. That looks more like a VRF unit, but you have those units on the outside, and on the inside, if you can see the headers in the rooms, those are provides the heating and cooling, the distribution on the inside. For the ground source, you can use the ducted, or you can use these ductless systems as well too. Next slide.
Have a cover, it's an amenity, and it gives you extra income. And although we don't see it much in our area, you can of course do solar on ground mount. If we have land, we've actually been successful in developing a couple of multi-megawatt projects in Westchester. But typically we're seeing those on landfills or brownfields or places that just can't get developed for traditional means. Certainly, if you can build other types of real estate on it, it's going to be more valuable than just putting solar on. So what are the incentives? From a federal perspective, you get a federal tax credit. In this year, it's 26% of the value of the project with no cap. So spend $1 million, you get $260,000 in tax credits. Those are dollar for dollar credits that just knock off your tax. That drops next year to 22%, and then it drops down to 10%. So clearly, we think that now is the best time. And there are provisions to safe harbor, meaning that if you think you're going to go forward, but it may take a year to build a project, you can do a few things that will keep that 26% credit, even though the project may not get finished until 2021 or 2022. And those we can safe harbor if with the proper planning. Another nice federal advantage is 100% bonus depreciation. So solar always had a very short depreciation schedule, but one of the things that the tax changes did in the last couple of years is let you completely expense the system in the year that you place it in service. So interestingly, if you have $1 million project and you get $260,000 worth of tax credits, you're only paying the difference, right? You're only paying that 740 delta. Well, it turns out that you can depreciate more than you're actually paying. So you can depreciate 100% minus half of the ITC, meaning that you would have to take $130,000 out of your depreciable basis. So you're depreciating $870,000, expensing it in year one, but you're only actually paying $740. So the numbers are really quite extraordinary. Next, please. On the state level, NYSERDA, and it's really, NYSERDA has really shifted to the New York Sun program, but NYSERDA has upfront incentives for solar. They're different in the Con Ed territory and then rest of state, that's what ROS stands for. And there are adders for doing things like carports, rooftop canopies, if your solar is in a brownfield, if you are working, if the project is on low income housing. So there are a lot of different incentives. And, you know, as the gentleman from Con Ed just touched on, there are incentives for battery storage. So we can do solar plus storage. And in certain instances that can be incredibly a wonderful situation. You can use it for demand shaving of your business. You can do it just as an arbitrage on the rate structures. So there are a lot of really valuable ways to sort of grab some of those incentives that are available. The state is very, very, very serious. You saw some of the numbers that Ron was talking about earlier about how much money has been allocated for all these programs, solar being one of them. There's over $500 million for solar. So this is a way to grab some of that money. Nicely as well, there's no sales tax for a solar system. So there's $1 million system is just $1 million. There's no tax on that. And then property tax exemption. New York State, this is one of the few things that can bring up the value of your property without changing your tax assessment. So a solar energy system or a renewable energy system and most energy efficiency upgrades are exempt from tax for 15 years. So really the better part of their lifespan, they will be exempt from tax. So it's a way to increase the value of your property, but not have to pay anything on increased taxes. So a wonderful choice there. Next, please. And then if your property is in New York City, there's another incentive, which is New York City property tax abatement. So again, let's take this $1 million project. You can get 20% of the value of the project. So that would be $200,000 as property tax abatements. And it's basically divided up evenly over 4 years. You get 5% of the project cost each year for 4 years. It's capped at a total of $250K, and it can't exceed your property tax for that year. But this is just a remarkable combination of federal, state, and city incentives that basically all combined can make these projects very, very inexpensive at the end of the day. But those are